All right. So this network segment has three different sub-segment. We are focusing first of all first segment, and then we'll go to the next segment and subsequently the last segment. In the very first segment today, what we are going to do, we are going to understand the basic stuff of network. Like, what is the public IP, what are the private IP, the classes of IP addresses, and then we'll talk about something called virtual network, subnet, and all that stuff. Okay. So in this module, we are going to discuss this part. What is virtual network? What is IP addressing? And then we'll talk about network security group. Of course, we have spent plenty of time here on the network security group. So we will not be again doing the same stuff. And then we'll talk about virtual network peering, firewall, DNS. Okay. So first of all, let's understand what is network components. In Azure, these are the different network components, what we have it. We have a virtual network, load balancer, application gateway, traffic manager profile, virtual network gateway, virtual wide area network, and so on. Okay, so most of the things that we will be covering in network segment today, tomorrow, or in forthcoming week. Of course, the wide area network, we will not be covering it. So first of all, what is virtual network? Okay. So virtual network and the network, why it is important. So as you can see, virtual network is nothing, but it is a logical boundary. It's a logical boundaries, logical representation of your network, which create a dedicated private cloud, and it secure your data center with the virtual network. And at the same time, it extend if you are into the hybrid or you want to create into the hybrid environment. So it secured the network traffic between your on-prem and your Azure. Okay. So under the virtual network, anything which we create, it has a logical boundary. You must have seen that whenever we created a virtual machine, we assigned something called reason, and then we created a virtual network. Virtual network is defined logical boundaries. Like, whenever you create any resources under the virtual network, it defines that, okay, under this network boundaries, your resources will be there. Okay. And just to get you more glimpse of this, more detail of this, let me take you to Microsoft website and see if we get more detail here. So what all it says, it build and manage a secure network infrastructure in the cloud. It secure your connection with IPsec, VPN, or Azure Express Route. Create a sophisticated network topologies using virtual appliances. Bring your own IP addresses and the DNS servers, and get a granular control over the traffic between the subnets. And again, get an isolated and highly secure environment for your applications. So here it is. If you go with the definition, this is what it says. It protect data in transit. Data in transit means data is traveling. Enhance security isolations, rely on global reach, extend and all, so on and so forth. Okay. The pricing, from the pricing prospect, there's no upfront cost, no termination fees, and it's just like, what you pay, what you use, you pay it. So this is all about virtual network. Thereafter, we also have something called subnet. A subnet is again a component, which actually a small component, or say if we have the virtual network, it divide into the different subnet. So it is a virtual network inside the virtual network. Inside that, again, you have a set of subnet. So virtual network can be segmented into one or more subnets. Again, subnets provide the logical division within your network. So if suppose this is this way, we have a virtual network here. So if it is a virtual network and it has some logical boundaries like this, East US. So this again will be further divided into different segment. Okay. So in fact, the virtual network will be divided into a different set of network. Here you can have one subnet. You can have one subnet, subnet 1. At the same time, you can have another subnet here, subnet 2, subnet 3, and subnet 4. Okay, you have a 4 subnets under virtual network. Okay, so this subnet further it can assign to any client servers, app servers, web servers, and so on and so forth. But all these subnets will be part of your virtual network. Okay. Now, if I give you some more detail, like for instance, virtual network, you have chosen the IP address 10.110.10.0.10. So of course, you have to choose the same class IP address under the subnet 1. It has to be 10.10.0.11 something, and this will be again 12. This will be 13, and this will be 14, like that. So these are the 4 subnets what we have it under virtual network. Okay. You cannot choose say this is your A class IP address. So here you cannot choose the B class IP address, C class IP address, because this is kind of parent network. The virtual network is the parent network. Under the need, all of these are subnets, the child network. So all the network division has to be done from the top, from the parent network. Okay. This is what it says. Each subnet must have the unique address, and it cannot be overlapped with other subnets in the virtual network. For instance, here you have the address range 10.1.0.0./24, and then subnet 1, subnet 2, subnet gateway subnet, and so on. Okay. One more thing that we need to understand, Azure reserve the first 3 IP address and last IP address in each segment range. It means if you see a very first segment, subnet 01, it has this address range. It means available IP address is 251. 251 IP addresses you have it. It means you can have 251 host. 251 host can be in this subnet 01. But again, it is not 251 because first 3 IP address and last IP address. So you can minus 5, you can, you can do it. You can subtract from minus 251 minus 5. So rest of IP address, you can use it. Each segment, it is like this. This is by design. By design, reservation will be done for Azure. All right. So implementing is very simple. We have already done it, but let me walk you through how we can create it again. We are here, search on the virtual network. Here it is, virtual network. Create virtual network. Give some meaningful name here on the virtual network. Say, let me create one resource fee. You can give some name. So that should be virtual network. Or what is the purpose you're creating? You can say for my IT and team, something. Reason you can give to India. So here it is, Central India. Okay. And next is your some component if you want to add right now. If not, IP addressing. Here is the IP addressing range. Now, if you see that by default, this is some IP address. Okay. Under that, you have a different subnet. Subnet 1, subnet 2, like that. We can create some few more subnets. For instance, this is one of the subnet. Okay. You can give the another name like subnet 2, starting address here, this one, and add it. So you added 2, like that. You can create one more subnet. And here you can give subnet 3 and add it. Like that, you can create it. You can add this one also. You can change it. Instead of that, you can say subnet 01. So what we are doing it, we have created one parent network. Under that, these are the subnet, child network we are creating it. Okay. Hit on preview and create.
How can you choose a 24?
Come again, RK, your voice is breaking.
How can we choose 24 or 8 or 16?
Yeah, I'll come to that. We are going to do the private IP addressing after that. So that I'll just walk you through the classes of IP addresses and a little bit on the subnetting part. This is how we have created a virtual network. Okay. Okay, now inside that we can create any virtual machine. We can create a storage account if needed. We can create the public IP. We can also create the private IP address and so on and so forth. Right? This is all about virtual network and subnet. Now next is IP addressing. Now IP addressing is what? There are two kind of IP addresses, what we have it in Azure. One is private IP address and another one is public IP address. Private IP address, where all we use, it used within Azure Network. And your on-prem network. When you use the VPN gateway and express route, that time also the IP address is being used, the private IP address. Public IP is used for your internet, whenever we need to communicate over the public network, we need to have the public IP address. Okay. Now in Azure, where all we use VNet to VNet, VNet to gateway, you know, load balancer that we are going to create, that time we need the public IP address. The virtual machine, when we created, by default, it will be having public IP address. If you do not want, you can detach. Similarly, for the VPN gateway also, we need to have the public IP addresses. Okay. So there are two things. When you create the virtual machine, you must have seen the by default a public IP will be assigned. So IP addressing specifically to public IP, it will be a two set of IP addresses. I mean, two types of IP addresses, public IP. Okay, let me try to elaborate here on this. So whenever you deploy the virtual machine, public IP, okay, say 4.8.90. This is your public IP. So there are two types of public IP which are being used in Azure. One is dynamic, another one is static. This is known as dynamic IP address, dynamic, and the next one is static. 1 minute, guys. Yeah, I'm back. So dynamic, what is the difference between dynamic and static? Anyone?
Means it will allow the network will allow the IP for us, whereas the static will it will whatever the IP we assign, it will stay forever, even though we reboot or whatever.
Correct. Yes, that's very much true. So dynamic, it means any sort of IP addresses, whenever it is being assigned to your resources, there is a high chances that you restart your system, you restart your virtual machine, restart your resources. So you might not get the same IP address. One good thing that you noticed or not sure, I'll just demonstrate that we do not have control on public IP, whether it is dynamic or static IP address. We cannot choose which kind of public IP we need because it is a pool of public IP addresses are being maintained by Microsoft, and it's a system generated. So you cannot choose that, okay, the 4 series, 8 series, or 220 series, I should be getting the public IP. No, you don't have control. The control, what you have it, whether you want the dynamic or static IP address. Okay. And by default, when you create the virtual machine, that virtual machine default has the dynamic IP address. And whenever you create any IP address manually, that will become a static IP address. Okay. Let me try to showcase. Let me try to demonstrate. I'm here on the portal and I'll search on the public IP. Okay, and here it is. So if I try to create a public IP, I'm here, Central India, I'm taking. Next is, so under the public IP, here we need to give the name, and the IP versioning that we can give it. Here, the name for what purpose you're creating the public IP. I'll say LND chain testing, something. Of course, you have a control to select the IP version, which IP version you want, IP address, IP version 4 or 6. Then after SQs, SQs are nothing but, set
Ajay,
of.
sorry to interrupt you. So I used to hear from at least a couple of years or more that IPv4 be decommissioning and we have to use V6.
It's halfway through. It's a half cooked story. Yes, IP version 6. Even I've been hearing the same almost 10 years ago, or since last 10 years, I've been seeing the same. People
Okay.
are switching from IP version 4 to 6 because of once there would be a time when it's going to be exhaust. IP will not have the IP version
Yes.
4.
Yes.
And that is the whole reason IP version 6 has, or not has, it was introduced almost one
Right.
decade ago.
Hmm.
Yes, it is not going to be, vanish so soon, but yes, people are switching and system is capable enough to adopt the changes. But it's like, it's not going to be vanish so soon for another 10 years. I'm sure it is not going to. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So IP version 4, and in fact, we'll see the difference between IP version 4 and 6 as well. SQs are nothing but, set of capabilities what this public IP has. If you go for standard, you will get a different set of, for instance, this availability zone. But if you go for basic, you will not get anything. And again, it is going to be retired from 2025. Okay. So here you have the availability zone for public IP also. It means if this public IP is not reachable or something goes wrong, you can also create, or you can have the, different IP address or from the nearby data set. Okay. And then tier, you can select the tier, whether you want regional or global. It's up to you. So here you see that must be deployed within a supported home region. So it is not supported for central India. So we have to select regional. Now, one thing you must have noticed or explore it, guys, all the products are not available across all the regions. What does it mean? Uh,
Yes.
you must have experience and Azure products by region. So here you should be choosing, there's a high chances when I am showcasing something like, this is the virtual machine that you should be creating or choosing or selecting during the deployment. There's a high chances in the free tier account, again, it's not there. So do not get confused, do not get, panic. Okay, we have seen something in the recording or we have seen something in the class and why we are not able to. So always come here and check it out. Product available by region. You can select any compute, for instance, search compute under virtual machine and see that virtual machine where what kind of series are available, what kind of series are not there. All you can see, for instance, in Central India, we do not have this series. But in East US, yes, we do have it. Central US, we do have it like that. So you should always come and refer this page. Okay. Now let's go ahead and create tagging. Tagging is again, it's up to us. Now you see throughout this process, we have not assigned any sort of IP address. The numeric IP address is not there. If I go review, till here, I do not see any IP addresses. Okay, validation completed, but still there's no IP addresses. Why? Because we are requesting Microsoft to assign the public IP address. And Microsoft has the pool of public IP addresses. From that, the moment we request, the moment I click on create, it means it is going to request from the pool. And then it will give you one of the IP address which is available for this central India under this region. Now we should be having public IP. See, now we got the IP addresses. Now, if you go and check the properties, more configuration, this is my IP address. This is the properties. And under overview, this is the regional. So this IP address is your static IP address. Yes, RK, you want to ask something?
Yeah, DNS name and associated option.
This is like optional. We'll cover it. DNS name is like by default, Azure will be assigning one DNS name, but that's like optional. We can configure little later. And association, because we have not associated this public IP with anything, that's what it is, all empty. It's just a configuration. Now you see that IP address assignment. By default, it is static since we created manually. Okay. So whenever you create manual IP address, it's going to be static. It means you do not, this IP address, if you assign to virtual machine, this virtual machine will have the static IP address and it is not going to change.
So here one question, Ajay. So here ideal timeout is 4 minutes. So if we don't use for 4 minutes or so, will it will reassign to some
No, no,
RP?
no, 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 no. It's like, this IP is just a communication between TCP, as you can see. Keep a TCP or HTTP connection without relying on client to send keep alive. It's just like, when you uh, keep an open communication, for that purpose it is there. Just to check that okay, whether the communication is happening by default. You can change it. You can increase the time, idle timeout this much. It is not something that you have to take a call that, okay, this is something, if virtual machine is not being used or is idle for so and so time, so it will assign. No, this virtual machine, if you assign this IP address, is going to be forever.
Okay.
So this is your public IP address, and public IP address again can be used for your load balancer, can be used for your VPN gateway, can be used for your firewall, can be used for your virtual machine, So that is the public IP. So this is how we created public IP. And the use of public IP, as we have already seen, it used in application gateway, VPN gateway, load balancer, and your virtual machine sometime. Now, private IP address. So private IP address, first of all, let's understand what is the private IP address. It's going to be a little lengthy, but I'm going to make it only those concepts which are needed for us. Before we come here on the Azure part, let's understand the IP addressing. What is IP addressing? Private IP address, in fact. Anyone knows the classes of IP address, private IP address?
Sorry, Ajay.
Okay, no worries. So that's what we are here to understand. So whenever we talk about IP addresses, what is the IP address? It is nothing but it's known as Internet Protocol. Okay, Internet Protocol. And IP address act as an identifier for any specific machine or computer or network. And why we are using the IP address? Because it helps us to develop a virtual connection between our source and destination. Okay, sometimes it is also known as internet address or say IP addresses and so on. Now, whenever we talk about IP address, it consists of different number, host and network. So if I say that by default, it will be in 32, this is the private IP address. And each IP address or each segment is known as octa. This is 8 octa. This is also 8-bit. This is also 8-bit. This is also 8-bit. So 8, 8, 8, 8. So altogether, the IP, we are talking IP version 4 for now. Okay, by default. It will be like 32-bit by default. Now, first IP address, normally, depending on the class that we are going to discuss, it will be for network part, and the last two part will be the host part. So if it is normally, in this case, the first two part, this is going to be for network, and last two part will be reserved for host. Yes, it is for host. Now, we have a different classes for IP version 4. It is start with the class A, class B, let's understand. The first one is class A. Then we have class B. We also have class C IP address, class D IP address. And very few we will be seeing class E. And D and E, in fact, it will be reserved for some R&D purpose. So you will be having these addresses. Now, when we talk about range, and the class A range start from 1 to 126. Okay. Class B start from 128 to 191. Okay. Class C start from 192 to 3, I think it's 3. And then class D start from 224 to 239, if I'm not mistaken. And then class E IP address is from 240 to 254, something. So this is the range. Now, what is the range means? Any IP address fall into the 10 or 15 or 16 or 30, by default, it will be a class A IP address. You must have seen the IP address 159, 168, that will fall under class B. Similarly, class C will start from 192 series and so on. D and E is actually still reserved for your research and development. Maximum across the industry, only these three classes are being used as far as IP version 4 is concerned. We also have something called mask, subnetting mask. When we have the class A IP address, we have subnet mask, which is almost fixed, 255.0.0.0. Similarly, for class B, we have the subnet mask, which is 255, 255, and this. And the class C IP address, 255.255.255.0. This is the subnet mask for different classes ABC. Okay. Now there is a two concept, subnet and supernet. What happens is once we get the IP address, because if suppose I got one IP address, a 20.20.20.20. If I got this IP address, and now from this IP address, if I want to create a network, so how many hosts I can create, how many network I can create out of this IP address? So from this IP address, I can, first of all, I need to create a supernetting, subnetting. So I can create at least, thousands of machines. Then it is going to be a kind of, there we need to have the network, someone who knows the network inside out, a network specialization or network team who will be doing a network segment. You must have heard about something called VLAN. Depending on the IP address, depending on the project, they will be creating the VLAN. They will be designing the VLAN and then set up policies, set up restrictions. They are going to do it, implement it on the specific project by creating the VLAN.
Ajay, one couple of questions.
Mm-hmm.
So in the class B, you started with 128, but we missed 127.
Correct. In fact, I intensely missed because I wanted to show. You must have noticed why 127 is being used. 127 is being used for your loopback adapter, and
Right, correct.
Microsoft reserved that IP address, and that's what it is not listed out here. It is being used for loopback network adapter.
Yeah.
That's a reservation. Okay. So as
For
you
the
can
subnet
see,
masking, sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
And for the subnet masking for the class E and D, we doesn't have any.
Yeah, and it does not have. I told you, right? D and E. If in fact, if you see that D and E, you hardly see any sort of IP address from 224 or 240. It's like it's still being used for research, scientific purpose and all. It is not being used across the industry. Very, very rare. That's what it is. And who maintain this IP addressing? How you can create it? There is an authority, international authority called IANA. IANA. This is the authority who maintain these IP addresses and all. Global coordination of DNS route, IP addressing, and other internet protocol resources is performed by Internet Assigned Numbers Authority. So here we can check the IP addressing, we can check the protocol, we can check the network abuse information, and so on. So here, if you go for IP addresses, here you have the IP version 6, IP version 4. This is the percentage available, current space available, 24 months forecast, allocation across the globe, allocation by country, by country also we can see it. So this authority is actually controlling all. And here what we have it. Asia Pacific, we are in Asia Pacific. If you check here, get IP address, go IP version so for IP version 6. Here you have the IP address. So this is all about IP version. In fact, there are more. To be honest, it has a deep um, theory on the IP addressing, but we are not going into deep dive because first of all, it is not something that we will be doing it. But yes, we should be having the fair understanding how this IP address work, and if you see that classes, you have the first, because as I told you, the subnet mask is something to define the network. And here, if you talk about, this is class A IP address. So in a class A IP address, the first bit, the first bit, this one, is called octa, which identify the network. And rest of 3 bits, which is like 8-bit here, 8-bit here, 8-bit here. It means 24 bits reserved for your host. And this calculate 2 raised power 8, 2's power 8. In this way, it will calculate. So when you calculate in this way, so maximum host we will be getting in class A IP address only. In a class A, we will be having maximum host. So similarly, if you come to class B, the first two, this one, let's take example of 175.56.89.90. So first 2 bit, this one will be used for network, rest 2 bit will be used for your host. Similarly for C also. So what happens is we will not be able to, because that's what, if we have the IP addresses, we will not be able to use it in an optimized way unless we know the IP addressing well. That's what we have something, someone from the network background who knows the CCNPs, who know at least the network design and all. But for us, for Azure administrator, we should be knowing at least these classes of IP address, subnet masking, and in what scenario, if suppose we have to be we need to participate in network designing, so we can also use the network calculator. Here what we have it, network IP, network calculator, subnet calculator. So there we can calculate. It's very famous tool which are being used by the network team nowadays also. You can use any class. See, if you see that, there we saw that class is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But in reality, if you see that, you will see only ABC, which are widely being used across the industry. So if I say A class subnet, I can choose A class. So by default, see, this is customized and this is the IP address calculate. So under this, if I have this IP address and network range, this is my usable host. This is my usable host. Total number of hosts I can accommodate 256. Number of usable 254. And this is my subnet mask and the binary subnet mask. The IP class, here we have C class. Then we have something called CIDR notification. This is also a very important part in Azure or in any cloud. The CIDR range that we have to give it. So this is how actually we calculate. You can also, whenever you have time, you can calculate. You can also calculate the bandwidth calculator. But this tool is quite popular. Okay. Saswat, you joined now, late.
Yes, actually, from yesterday night, there was a power cut at my place. So
Okay.
there was no internet connectivity due to heavy rain. Just now, electricity got restored.
All right, no problem. You can refer to the recording. We are doing the
Actually,
network.
yeah.
All right. Fine, guys. So this is the class IP addresses. This is I wanted to bring your attention. At least we should be knowing the basic part. Of course, we cannot go and just if you get time, if you have the, if you wanted to enhance the knowledge further, you can go for supernetting, subnetting, the classes, how the usable hosts are being calculated and all. But to be honest, on the Azure network, Azure administrative prospect, you do not have to break your head into that level. But if you, it's up to you. If you're interested in it, you can go ahead and do it. Okay, coming back to the network security group. Any questions, guys, with the IP addressing, private IP address, public IP, or any questions so far? It's been almost 1 hour. Anything which is not clear?
As of now, no for me.
Priya, anything from your end? Maru will not be joining today. He's not well. He messaged me. So it's fine. All right, great. Fair enough. So network security group, I'm going to skip it, guys. We have spent plenty of time here. It's going to be the same. We have already covered the NSG rule, how to, play around, what is the inbound, what is the outbound and all. So I'm not going to spend time here. We are going to discuss, first of all, the firewall, and then we'll come to the networking peering. Now, what is the firewall? Let's come here. Or is it in second segment? Okay. I'm sorry, it is in second segment. Okay, then we'll do the peering itself. So virtual network peering. I think I confuse. There are some parallel batches also going on so in the weekdays. Virtual network peering, we'll understand the concept first, and then we'll go and implement this concept. Okay, Saswat, for you also, it is just new concept. Pay attention here. Okay.
Sure.
You
So
take
network,
weekdays also, Ajay? Sorry. Sorry.
sorry.
You take sessions on weekdays also?
Yeah, RK, but that is for the US time zone. The folks are there, US and Canada. So I usually take in the morning. So not with this guy, I mean, not from the egain. I have
Oh,
some partner channel in US. So for them, I conduct the architect training.
okay.
Okay, coming to this, let me give you one scenario. And I want your understanding so far also. Let's take the example. You have this is your region called East US. All right. And we have resource group, say AZ Network, NetLab. And we have a few virtual machines like this. This is VM1 and VM2. And they're part of same VNet. So tell me guys, this is case number 1. We have 2 VM and we are using one VNet and they're part of the same VNet here. Here are and here are. So now, do you need to do anything in order to communicate VM1 and VM2?
They are in the same network, right?
They are into the same VNet.
Yeah, if they are into same network, no, they can communicate.
They can communicate, right? Okay. Now let's take the example of another. This is case scenario 1 or case number 1, you can say. Now this is my East US and I do have another region here, which is called Central US. And they are into the same resource group, okay? Central US, and here you have VNet 2. And here you have the virtual machine like this. So now, will they able to communicate this VM1 to this VM, which is part of VNet 2? Will they able to communicate? They are part of the same resource group, but regions are different. VNets are different.
No, we cannot communicate.
Yes. So by default, they will not be able to communicate. And that's what we have something called peering comes into the play. What is peering? Let's understand. So here what we have it, peering is nothing but this is your VNet 1, this is the VNet 2. So when you are setting up the peering, you are actually setting a connection between two different regions, two different resource groups. So what happens is when you enable the peering, you are actually initiating the connection between two different network. Okay. So by the time we actually understand this theory part, let's deploy two different virtual machines in a two different region and make our lab ready. Okay. So I'll come here under the virtual machine. Right now, I don't have anything. So I'll do one thing. I'll create a virtual machine. I'll say this is my VM01 and I'll choose here no infrastructure standard. I'll choose the Windows Server Express your edition and with 389 and that's it. I'll not do anything for now because I'm going to dismantle this virtual machine post our lab, post our practical. So one machine is being created in India region. And at the same time, I'm going to create one more virtual machine in a different location. So one is deployed. So one is running in Central India. I'm going to create one more. And this time I'm going to create the same resource group, VM-02, and I'm going to use Central US. Okay, and I don't want anything for now. No infrastructure, standard, and the same one. That's it for now. Okay, so let it be create, and in the meantime, we will be doing the theoretical part. So what it says, when you have the VNet here and VNet 2, two different virtual machines in a two different virtual network, then by default, they will not be able to communicate. And in order to sort it out, this problem, we have the peering in place, you know. And of course, if you see that the third one, this diagram, let me open this annotation, here it is. Yeah. So this is my one network, network one. This is another network, okay? And at the same time, this is my Azure network. These two are Azure network, and this is my on-prem network, okay? It means I'm in right now, what you can see, it's my on-prem environment, okay? So what happens is, my ultimate goal is people in my hybrid environment also, if I have one network, say Azure network in Central US, this is in Central US, and this is in Central India, for instance. And at the same time, I have an on-prem data center also, which is here. This is my on-prem data center, for example, based out in Bangalore, you know. So my ultimate objective is, no matter user is connecting or user is trying to access any server from the India to on-prem, from Central US to on-prem, and vice versa. I want end-to-end connectivity. Being a user, they should not come to know that, okay, whether this virtual machine or whether this machine is kept on the cloud or it is an on-prem. No. So to accomplish this, what I have to do, first of all, I need to create a peering between Central US to Central India, you know. And after that, the peering can also be extended for your this network on-prem using the gateway subnet. And then the ultimate goal will be here that you will be getting a connectivity. You know, once you have the network connectivity, you can play around with anything, because network connectivity is the base, right? You have to create the base. Once you have the base, then you can install, you can connect to the database, you can connect to the application here and there. You can accomplish this. You can create the backup if needed and all. So that's what it says here. So you can, once you establish the connectivity between two different VNet, you can extend this connectivity to your on-prem also by utilizing the VPN gateway. Okay, so we'll get more clarity to this. Let's see that. The benefit of using virtual network peering. Okay, if you talk about the benefit, it's like low latency, high bandwidth. The best part is no downtime is needed. when you enable the virtual network peering, there's no downtime needed. And the traffic will be there in Microsoft network. Means if the data will not go beyond Microsoft network, it will not communicate over the public network. Okay. And there is no cost involved. It's a free service provided by Microsoft. For instance, if you have two different VNet, okay, so we will be able to establish the connectivity between two different VNet, and underneath, whatever the virtual machines are there will also be get connected. What does it mean? For instance, right now, I'm trying to set up peering. Peering always happen on the VNet level, guys. Peering happens on the VNet level. It means here and here. Here and here. So by default, all the virtual machines which are connected under VNet 02, VNet 01 will automatically start communicating. So no matter you have 2 virtual machine, 10 virtual machine, 50 virtual machine, if you set up the connectivity at the network layer, all the underneath machine will start talking to each other. And the advantages will be, as we spoke, there's no cost, so you don't need to worry about. The traffic will not go to the internet. It will be there on your Microsoft network, the Microsoft backbone network. And the third important part, these virtual machine will always communicate over the private IP address. So there is no public IP needed for communicating to each other. Got it? These are the advantages what we have it while setting up the VNet peer. Demo we are doing right now. Some of the takeaways: traffic always flow using the private IP address. VNet peering can be created in a 2 different resource group, subscription and the reasons. By default, it will be encrypted, so you do not need to worry about that, okay, data leakage, data security, data in transit issues, nothing. And there is no charges for the peering. The last but not the least, transitive peering is not supported. What does it mean? Have you guys ever, or anyone from the network mathematic background in 12th graduation, anyone has done the math? No? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So there was a subject called real analysis. Not sure whether it was there for you. There's a concept there, transitive law, right? Now, as per the transitive law, it used to be this way. If A is equal to B, B is equal to C, and that's what A is equal to C. If you recall, RK. This was a concept for transitive law. Right? So it is same thing here, but it is not the concept is same, but it is not applicable for peering. It means what? If suppose you have one more reason. Yeah. And this is East US, this is Central US, and let's make it, North Europe. North Europe. So you have 3 different reasons. So these 2 are able to communicate by default. So now if you want to communicate these virtual machine to Central US, of course, you will be setting up a peering from here to here, right? You will be setting up the peering to here, right? Now, what happens now? Central US can talk to North Europe. Central US can talk to East US. But if I want these PM also should be able to talk to this VM. So I have to go and create one more peering. It doesn't mean that, since I am able to talk to the Central US can talk to East US, and that's what North Europe can also talk to this. No, that is transitive law, and transitive peering is not supported. If you want all of your virtual machines should be able to communicate to this, you have to set up the peering. Understood, guys? That is called transitive. So enough of theory. If you understood, let's go and do some practical in our lab. So right now you can see two virtual machines. One is in South Central, one is in Central India. And we have been talking that, okay, these virtual machines should not be communicating by default. Let's verify first, okay? I'm connecting to VM1, connect. I've of course opened the port 3389, so I should be able to take RDP. So I'm connecting to VM1. Similarly, I'll connect to VM2 as well, which is in South Central US. It will be slightly slow for me since I'm connecting from here, but I should be able to connect. So the VM1 and VM2, this is VM2 is in US and VM1 is in India, okay? VM2 is still loading. But if I come to VM1, type your CMD and type your IP config, host name. This is my VM1 and the IP address is this one, IP version 4, 10.0.0.4. If I come here, type CMD, host name, VM2, IP config. It is 10.0.0.4. It's connected to 10.0.1. Okay, it has taken the same IP address, but it is in a two different region. Okay, so if I try to ping this IP address from here, ping 10.0.0.4. it's creating problem now because it has taken the same class IP address. Here also. In fact, gateway also same. So it will not be able to justify, or I need to assign a new, I need to create a new virtual network and assign here, because it's going to create a conflict and confusion as well. Because it has, by default, it has taken the same default gateway, same subnet, and same IP address. That is quite possible in a two different reasons, guys. Okay. So what I'm going to do, VM2 network section. Let me open the virtual network first of all. It happens the very first time to me as well. Okay. So this is my India network. I'll not touch anything on the VNet 2. This is the address space. What I'll do, let me create one more virtual network. Okay. And let's create virtual network in the same location, South Central US. Okay. VNet VM4 VM network, something I'll give. And I'll use the South Central US. South Central US. This is what I want. Next is nothing. IP address, I'm going to change it. And this time I'm going to use 20 IP address. 20.20. Twenty dot 0.06. 0.0. This IP address, I'm going to use it. And subnet is also, I'm going to use server and add it. So this will also give you one, one confidence. How do we create the virtual network? Now, 20 series I have given. I could have given the C series also. That's fine. Review and create it. So what I'm going to do on the VM2, I'm going to detach that virtual network and I'm going to attach this virtual network so that it can have the different IP address. Okay. So here it is. And add connected device right now, nothing. Address space. And then subnet mask. This is by default overview. And I'm going to use one more NIC card. Okay, network interface. So this one I'm going to detach from this virtual machine. So I'm going to use a new network card. Resource group, I'm going to use same VM Central US and South Central US. Virtual network. I have to check 1 minute. Let me open duplicate tab here. Which one we created recently? Virtual network. VM network here. This one we created. So we will be choosing this one. Subnet. This one. And here we are going to use IP address. So we will be using one of the IP address from here. We do not want dot. No, it's not that one. Let it be finally. New subnet. Review and create. So this network interface, IP addressing, I got this IP address and all, and public IP is not attached. I need to attach the public IP also. Network security group is assigned. Public IP, I need to assign it. I'm creating these guys so that even you get some idea. Otherwise, the easiest way is I could have deleted the VM and created a new one. But since we are doing all this practically, you should be getting some idea. If not, please help me. I will try to clarify the doubt if you have any. Central US, South Central US, name, VM, IP, public IP, IP. The whole agenda is I'm going to detach all the network, segment or network things what as part of default deployment the VM got. And I'm going to attach the one which I'm going to create. So all these things will be attached to the VM which we want so that IP address can be changed here. Okay, now coming to the virtual machine. Now here, if I go to the virtual machine, this one, under the network interface, network, first of all, let me detach the public IP. Deassociate this public IP. Okay, so now associate a different IP address, network interface, and central US. This one I'm going to associate. Click OK. And I'm going to use, what is that? Networking, and going to check the network interface also allowed. this one. I have to change. From here, from it's not allowing me to delete. Let me go to network, connected device, delete. Delete. Asked or not allowing me. Give me 1 minute, guys. Forget net. Now it is should come to this one and if we are addressing refresh. Yes. I have to shut down the virtual machine. It is still enable, and that's what I'm not able to do it. We stop and then try to detach. The intention here is to detach the network interface card, what we have it on the central US, and attach the new one which we created. Okay. So since the machine is being used, I'm not able to detach it. So I'm going to shut down the virtual machine. And then I'm going to detach the network interface card. Okay, so now let's write network. Let me see if I can delete it now. So there's connected ones. Social. This option is spelled out. This has to be there. Let's see why it is spelled out. Yeah, usually it has to come here. Put me why this one's scrolling. Network patch. Okay. Oh, maybe there. Why it's not picking up? Okay, let me just create one more. PM to what should I put this one default submit. Want to give some. It is taking still the same network. Space. Connect devices. virtual machine network patch. Allow it some time, guys. It seems it is not taking. Usually you have this option detach and attach it. So I'm not sure why it is not working this time. So what I have created, I created a new subnet into the same virtual network and attaching the same network interface here. And the whole idea is just to change this IP address because it is conflicting. Okay, now I can detach this one. All right, so I got the IP address change here now. Right, so first of all, I had to attach and then I had to detach. And inbound port, I need to enable the 3389 and RDP allow, and I'll say add it. The public IP is none, so we have to assign the public IP also. So public IP address one associate network interface. Okay, I think we are all set now. So let's verify the configuration. So we have the public IP now. We have the subnet and address space is fine. We got it. Connected device. With this one, we can delete it now. So we are able to delete now because it was not associated. Let's restart the VM. Okay, let's connect again. VM02. So now this is VM1 and VM2. Both are there in front of us. We'll verify one more time. So we got the different IP address this time, guys. Okay. Here we have 10.0.1.4 and here we have 10.0.0.4. All right. You guys are still with me? Guys?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So the whole exercise, what we did is to detach the NIC card from this virtual machine and assign the new NIC card which we wanted so that we can just keep it different. Or else the easiest way was to delete this VM and recreate it. So it will assign the new IP address. Now, if I give the host name here, it is VM02. Now, the gateway is also different. You can see the default gateway is 10.0.0.1 and here we have 10.0.1.1. So of course, if I try to connect this virtual machine from here, if I try to ping this IP, this is my India, VM1 is India IP address. And if I try to ping the US IP address, which is 10.0.1.4, it is not pinging, it's not responding, and vice versa. From US, if I ping .0.4, it is not, right? Here also it is not. Let's try to, disable the firewall if we have any on both the machine, just to verify it is not blocking anything from the firewall prospect. Windows firewall, okay? It's Windows firewall. So I'm just turning off on on India VM. Similarly, I'll do it on US. And turn off Windows. Click OK. Let's give a try again if it is blocking. So VM01, VM02. Okay. Now let's try to ping it again. Ping. This is the US machine. And from here also I'm pinging the India machine. Okay. So the result is same, request timeout. So it means we are not able to connect by default to two different region machine, and that is a default behavior by Microsoft. Okay. So what we have to do in order to make the connectivity, we need to enable the peering. And the peering, as I told you, it has to be on the network layer. So if you see that, this is my network and connected device. This is my VNet. So under this, we have something called peering. This is the peering. So I need to enable the peering between this and, if you see here, to this central India. It is in central India. So I need to enable the connectivity between central India and your south central US. Okay. So let's enable it. How do we do? It's just a matter of few seconds. Click on add. And here you need to give the name, peering name, from where to where you are connecting. To US, to India. Allow traffic, this thing, all you can allow it. Peering link name. Here you can give IN to US. And the virtual network. Here, since you are keeping it under VM02 net, you have to give the other name, which is this one. Again, this is a problem. Address space. See, this is what it happens when you are, this is overlapping, you know. And here also, I think we have the same problem. That's what, network is something that we have to be very much careful. Here also we have the same problem. So we can use 10.1 dot, but we already have the IP address. Let me see what is the IP address here. 10.0.1.4. This one I need to delete. I think I should be okay now. Hmm, 10, 20 dot, o slash string. Again, oh, I have to delete the entire network, guys. This is also overlapping. Give me 1 minute. Let me quickly deploy it through this one, PowerShell. So seems to be some problem. Let's quickly connect and deploy it from here. And it's taking time. Allow it some time, guys. Sometimes goof up happen like this. So you need to bear it. But we should be able to complete this practical. Now what happens is overlapping happened. I didn't notice. I could have created a new virtual network. So that also I didn't notice. Still not sure why it is taking the different subscription. Delete it. The rate. Everything. So this time we'll not take any chance. What we will be doing, we will create a new network and then we will be placing a virtual machine into the same. Okay. So let's this VM to be deleted. Okay, this time we will first creating the network. Let's delete all the network, whatever we have created in South Central US and create it all the way from scratch. Okay, still being used somewhere. Nonetheless, we are going to create something in East US. Okay, so it is network something in East US 2. I'm going to create just to avoid any sort of confusion. And here we will be giving the name US VM. Okay, next is IP addressing. Here we will be choosing some different address space this time. Let's go for 192 series. 192.168.0.0/16. Okay, this is the IP address range I'm going to give it, and the subnet here, and server subnet I'm giving, right? So it will create all sort of confusion because one, we already have 10 series and this we are using the C series. Okay, so virtual network is being deployed. And now under this virtual network, we are going to deploy the virtual machine. Okay, so let's deploy the virtual machine under the same East US 2 location. Okay, so I'm here creating a virtual machine. . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . VM2 and under East US2 and no infrastructure, standard VM, and this is the password. So network by default, it had chosen the same, the one which we created. Okay. And hit on preview and create. Okay, so let's see that resource. Refresh. So connect to this VM now. Download. So this time we will be creating a peering between these two, East US and Central India. East US2 is where we launch our virtual machine, and Central India is already we have the VM01. Okay, so let's verify first VM02. Let's disable the firewall, Windows firewall. IP config. Okay, this time we have a different IP altogether. All right, guys. And here inside VM02 and VM01. Okay, So here we already disabled the firewall. Let's try to connect. And of course, we will not be able to connect. Ping 192 series 192.168.0.4. Okay, it's not connecting. So till here, everything is okay. Default gateway is also different here. So what we are going to do, we are going to create a peering between these two networks. So keep your cursor here, or at least, and come to peering. Click on peering, and here you can give the name IN to US or whatever. Allow, and then remote US to IN. So what happens is, the moment we create the peering from one location, a set of peering will also be created in destination. Okay, which is US VM. So if you see here under the virtual network, which is East US2, under peering, there is no network connectivity. Okay, the moment I enable it from here, it will be creating a set of peering there also. Okay, now if you see here, it is created. I've just initiated from one location and it's created on both the location. Making sense, guys? Are you able to get it? Guys, you there?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if I go to network, which is here, and try to connect from here or here, try to ping it again. So I'm getting the response, right, from the India US. Similarly, from here also, I can connect to this machine, which is 10.0.0.4, right? I'm able to connect. If I want to take the RDP also, I can take it from here. Any of one virtual machine I can go and I can connect. See, and type 192.168.0.4. So if I know the credentials, I should be able to take the RDP. Okay, so this is how we connect. Which conclude the peering network concept, guys. Anything which is not clear, please feel free to ask. There was some initial glitch because of same network we have chosen, but eventually we are able to succeed with this. So that complete the peering. Okay. Yeah, the firewall is here. So we will be doing the firewall practical and theory tomorrow, along with the DNS. Okay, so that will be theory and practical for tomorrow. So with this, I think we can wrap up for the day. Unless you guys have any questions, we're all good to close.
Hello.
Hello, yeah, Priya.
Can you please share that this one PDF, because little bit I got confused. Sometimes we create the virtual network, then virtual machine.
Yeah, recording you want, right, Priya?
Yeah, this PDF, these slides are talking about
Okay.
this.
A slide, unfortunately, I will not be able to share, Priya, because this is like proprietary of MCT. And as per the agreement, being a Microsoft certified trainer, what we have an agreement with Microsoft, we cannot share it. But I'll be sharing a kind of, PDF with a learning, kind of learning guide what we have it, but not exactly the same. It will be similar to that.
Okay, no issue.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you. Then we'll meet tomorrow at the
Yes.
same time, and we'll just try to cover maximum.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.